We're doing pretty good. First weekend, allowing gatherings. It's been weeks, and now you can gather up to five people. It's crazy. I went around and came home yesterday, and the neighbors were barbecuing. It was like I kind of did a double take. Like, what barbecue? There's like, oh, right, it's allowed. It's allowed. Auntie Lou gave her blessing. We can barbecue, but no more than five people. 6:52. So, Dave, how was your weekend?
Short, but it was good. I had a nice Sunday. Thanks.
Well, always want to make sure you're doing okay as your regular customer here on the link, and got you in to kind of give us our FPUC and PUA update. There's a lot going on, so we'll just get right to it. What's the latest that people need to know, Dave?
Well, we're like everybody else. We're kind of waiting to see what the Senate is going to do with the new package. I didn't have much hope of something going through, but something a little bit more promising was the president, when he was holed up at the hospital, tweeted out to the Senate to please try to get it done. And so he's pushing for some kind of a package and trying to get everybody to find out what compromises can be done to get it done, to get it out. So we'll wait and see how this is going to, come out. They seem to be pretty much in favor of a lot of things. The biggest indigestion is the $600 FPUC. They want a lower number, and that's I think the White House likes 400. The House or the Senate, I think they like 200. So maybe they can find some agreement, and then the rest of the stuff is just, the different types of aid to the different types of businesses, sectors.
Right.
So hopefully they'll hash that out soon, and we can get something additional in the books for our people. I talked to the governor Friday, and we're still waiting for FEMA to give me some answers to what exactly, how and what and how much we're going to pay. And the governor agrees that enough is enough. Let's try to move forward. Let's just, figure out what we want to do, and just hope that they give us an answer in time before we do it. So I'm checking to see with the programmers how hard it is. They're programming it. Like I said, the biggest hurdle is the fraud, trying to make sure that we don't pay out fraud. And in line of that, I think the biggest shift in news, that last Tuesday we paid 15.6 million.
Wow.
And we that should be hitting the banks if it hasn't already. The biggest hurdle with that is when we got the payment registries for the checks and for the direct deposits. We went and just kind of did a cursory review, and we were finding that there were still some payments in there that were not supposed to be there. And we spent the last several days just scouring it and trying to remove some of those payments that did not belong into we thought we caught a lot of the stuff in the fraud measures, and they did a pretty good job, but there was still some that made through. And when they make through, we're talking about anywhere from $16,000 to $20,000 in initial payment. So this is a big checks that are going out. So it took us all the way to Friday to clean the file to where we felt strong enough to go ahead and release it. So with that in mind, we're going to start shifting to two payments every 2 weeks, like a regular paycheck. Every week is it's just getting too much for us to try to keep out and scrub the list and try to make it in within a week. So every 2 weeks we're going to be doing payments. Good news is today's the libraries open up, and for Jotnya and Dedido and Agate, they are full right now this week as far as appointments. So they're going to be very busy taking claimants with problems and anybody that has any issues and taking care of that. So that's business back to normal. And we're going to see how they handled as far as the distancing and, and trying to control the lines and making sure that there's no, everything is practiced well and clean. And other than that, man, we just keep crunching it out. Just keep doing what we do.
Yeah. Hey, Dave. This is Jason. I know I've got some people that were mentioning on Twitter, and they were saying, again, the very alarming number that you were saying last time we spoke, like 90%, the fraudulent number. I mean, that's astonishing. So some people were asking, and they wanted me to kind of like bring it up, and they were wondering, is it when you say fraudulent claims, is that when we spoke to the FBI special agent, we said, there are apparently like rogue actors that are trying to deliberately defraud the government into making claims and bogus things like that. Does that also include people that are trying to make legitimate claims that for whatever reason they just like overstated how much they get, and either discrepancies by just mistakes, or and how do you differentiate the two?
Good question. The 90% is just the fraud. And that's just the claims that are coming in that are basically have no tie to our Guam workforce or our island, or they're just outright trying to take advantage and take our money. Um, the other situation that you're speaking about is called overpayments, where that's what we're clamping on now, and we're moving forward with the appeals and the overpayment division. Letters have gone out, people are getting notices, and rightly so. Some are getting fairly upset. The ones that thought that they should keep the money, even though
Right.
they didn't earn it, or they didn't rightly apply for it. The ones who got it and they knew that they weren't, a lot of them are just waiting, and they've been turning in their checks uh, for the adjusted amount. And it's human nature. Some people fail to correctly input their income in various ways, or we find out later on that maybe they weren't qualified for the program, meaning that they were unemployed and not because of COVID, or they were fired, or what we're finding is some of the employers, when they try to open up, the employees didn't want to come back to work, and they would be disqualified then. And we are notifying them that they have to pay back some of the monies that they got. And like I said, so those are the various scenarios. So they have a right to appeal those decisions, and try to see if they can get it overturned.
Dave, I wanted to follow up on something, and I want to say you may have mentioned this in the past. Were DOL employees teleworking?
I'm sorry?
Were DOL employees teleworking?
Yes.
Okay. Then I wanted to follow up on something that we heard during an oversight hearing with the Department of Public Health last week. Did GDOL provide, I guess, government-issued cell phones and computers for those PUA employees that were working from home? And because during the oversight hearing last week with Public Health, they said that they wouldn't allow contact tracers to call from home because of HIPAA issues. Public Health's concern was that people's confidentiality with contact tracers calling from home using personal computers and cell phones. Did GDOL, I guess, feel this was an issue as well?
We issued laptops. So they were using government laptops as far as to be able to handle a lot of those problems. So I just went ahead. And no, these people are all basically PUA only people. They've been trained, and they've also been, like you say, sworn in to make sure that the confidentiality of what they deal with and what they see on a daily basis. They see the most intimate banking information of the claimants, and only the ones that are trained are the ones that are teleworking as far as for PUA. I had, of course, my other divisions that were working from home, and they were just doing their daily routines and their typical duties and responsibilities. But the PUA staff have been trained and basically learned. They know about all the confidentialities. So, and they were giving laptops by us. Those who were using and as far as handling claims by phone. Did I answer your question?
Yes. How many laptops do you guys have?
We got about 30
Let me see. Is
for
that
this program.
from CARES Act money that you guys purchased
Yes.
laptops? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had to, every single item that we purchased with our pool of money had to go through the ringer as far as at USDOL and well written and justified for each piece. In hindsight, I probably should have gotten 50 because it's just I have that many people that at one time or another, especially at the beginning, that needed laptops. I didn't anticipate them going, a second wave of going home and this and that. But we're using those 30, and they're being used now that they're going to be going back out to the libraries. They're in our call centers, so we are getting a lot of use out of those laptops. And then at the end of the day, when this pool is all done, all those equipments and stuff will go over to the American Job Center, and they will continue with USDOL, ETA activity as far as help getting people trained. They'll be in the resource rooms, and they'll be used for employment. So they're going to have a really good second life after PUA, utilizing at our American Job Center.
Dave, we had a comment here from Taylor. How do we call about our PUA account? I can't get in touch anytime I try to call.
I know, with this, and I hate to keep saying like this, but with this lockdown and, before this lockdown, we were doing real good. As I'm sure you heard, you could walk into the libraries. Our phone calls were much easier to access. We have a reduced staff because we already went over the main hump. We were decreasing rapidly as far as claims as things were opening out, and all our detail staff went back to their GovGuam agencies, and we were shifting to trying to do the second part, which is overpayments and appeals, and then cleaning claims. And with this wave, all of a sudden, tens of thousands of people all of a sudden became unemployed, and they wanted to reapply or apply again, and we just weren't set up to handle that kind of volume on the phones. If you like, get her name, get her number, and text it to me, Chris, and I'll be glad to have somebody get a hold of her.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I think we're still kind of freaking on the laptop thing. I mean, how do you assure that the public, Dave, when you're telling us that we have 90% fraud, and then we've got the employees going around with these computers that may have sensitive information in them?
The computers don't have any sensitive information in them. You got to remember, our program is all cloud-based. They log in, and they get access to it from there. And so nothing is downloaded, nothing is on the laptop itself. It's just being used as a tool. So when they answer the phones and a claimant is saying, I have a problem with this or that they can go in and correct the problem that they're having, and then the claimant can see it and basically communicate that everything is good again, and they can go ahead and resume filing for their claims.
Mm-hmm. How are they answering the phones?
they're
if they're working from
using,
home?
if they're answering their phones,
Yeah, if they're
they're
working
using,
from home, how are they answering their phones? Is it a government
oh,
cell phone, or how does this work?
yeah, we have about 15, 20 cell phones that's also for the 311 lines and for the ones that are teleworking at home. You remember there wasn't a lot term working from home because we were, except for the 1 week, we were always open and working. Even when they'll shut down, we just shifted to closing the libraries, and they all went to our call center, and they were handling calls, and we just basically grew our call centers, and everybody was in there with, of course, spread out with distancing and everything that was properly handled. So majority of the times we were always open. We were one of those essential agencies that we were working in the call centers the whole time. So although the libraries might have closed and we weren't seeing public, but they were still coming into the call center, and we were still making the calls and handling the 311s and doing everything at the call center.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing that held true with our new location too. We have everybody there throughout this whole, ever since March, basically.
Dave also wanted to ask, so when we're talking about the package that's before the Senate now and the extension of the disaster unemployment, if that's passed, is it just going to be run through your existing program, or would it just be it's as simple as like they send the money over, or are we going to need to stand up a new program? I'm just worried about any speed bumps, right, as we approach the end of the year. And
it all depends, of course, what they pass. And when you're dealing with Congress, you never know what they're going to do. But if they take the standard FPUC format and they don't play with it or do anything with it, then it would be as easy as just replug it into the system, and it will go back retro or whatever they decide to do. It will be that easy. The only thing that may take time is if they require additional paperwork, budgets, and basically they will do another allotment separate, because this is a different program. I don't know if they would allow us to continue on with our existing balance, and because most of the time you have to apply for it just like it's a new program again, and then you have to wait for them to award it to you, and then to transfer the money into the payment management system for drawdown. So those are all questions we have to wait and see. There was talk at one time they were going to tie it into how much somebody works, which would be a nightmare. So I'm hoping that becomes a non-issue and it doesn't go forward. But if it just sticks to the regular FPUC, whether it's 6, 4, or 2, then it would be as easy as reprogramming it.
I also wanted to ask Dave, what's the protocol? Let's say as we're now seeing more businesses reopen, I'm assuming those businesses may be calling employees back into work. So if you're on the FPUC or the PUA or just the unemployment, and your place of employment reopens, and your boss says, "Hey, we're open. Come work, whatever, limited hours," because I'm assuming it's going to be limited hours. What obligations are the recipients of the unemployment aid? Are they obligated to go back to work? Are they obligated to report that call?
Yes, you have to go back to work. There's no, if you want to still continue to get PUA, and that was some of the reasons for overpayments, is that, some of the claimants, when they got their checks, they didn't feel like they needed to go back to work anytime soon. And when their offices called them, they didn't want to come back, and they would automatically be disqualified for PUA from that day forward.
Wow.
David,
I don't make the rules.
Yeah.
I just
So
follow.
So if your boss calls, you can't be like, "No, thanks, I'm good. I'm on the PUA."
Yeah, no. Remember, the PUA is there for assistance because you're unemployed, furloughed, or reduced an hour because of COVID,
Right.
not because you don't feel like working.
Dave, just going back in time and how when PUA and FPUC were first discussed in the first stimulus round, you had made the ask for a certain amount for the PUA and the FPUC. I can't remember the dollar figure, but I know it was based on
924 million.
based on the 35,000 that you were anticipating to be unemployed, layoff, and furloughed. Since then,
Yeah.
though, we've seen more people, more businesses, I guess you could say, shut down and have been impacted during PCOR 1. And so the FPUC is, from what I understand, would be retro back to July, I want to say 31st, when it ended. So are you also going to be going through the same process or planning now, I guess, for whatever the ask is going to be if this next stimulus package is approved? Do you have an idea or an estimation on how much you plan on asking for?
The answer is yes. That's what I was saying. You probably will have to go ahead and move forward with an additional budget request.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they will allow us to continue paying that, because I do have, my initial amount, 924 million. I pretty much covered the worst case scenario of the request. Right now, I think we're at about 362 million of that 924. So I still have a lot there to work with. But yes, most likely we will have to resubmit a new budget estimate with the FPUC. Of course, I don't know, because I don't know what that amount will be, whether it's 600, 400, and 200, and whether or not the period will still be the end of December. They said it was end of January, but the PUA ends in the end of December. So I don't know about that 1 month. I don't think you can get FPUC without the PUA. So that's why I need to see what exactly I'm looking at as far as length of time and how much. And yes, we'll probably have to submit a new budget and basically wait for a approval, and then for them to send us the money. It may have to come from a different account. It may not be able to mix, because this is a different act, and you can't mix CARES Act money with whatever HERO Act or whatever
Right.
it is. Whatever they decide, we can adapt very quickly. As long as they keep the same parameters, we can just plug it into the system and we can get that money out very quickly. Like I said, as long as there's no reprogramming or messing around with the as far as the criteria to get it out.
Okay, Dave, I had another question from Ben. Was called back to work with reduced hours. Are we still qualified for reduced payments for the PUA? What is the baseline, if you could throw that number out?
So that baseline that you have to remember is 494. If you make that much or less, then if you make 494, you qualify for $1 of PUA. So it's 345 is your weekly benefit. They give you $150 earning disregards. What that means, you can earn up to $150 and still get the total 345. If you earn anything more than that, it starts reducing your weekly benefit. So yes, if you reduced in hours and you're making 494 or less, you can still apply and still get $1.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify some things that you said. Sorry to go back to it about the teleworking. You said 30 laptops were issued that were purchased with CARES Act money. And how many cell phones did you say? 15 to 20 cell phones?
We have those using at some of the call centers and at the things. The teleworking, there was only a handful that teleworked because we couldn't fit them initially into our new facility until we get them spread out. So when we got the new layout with the adjusting so that we can create more space, more of them came in, and were able to work from our facilities. So we were able to accommodate them. So like I said, the teleworking was kept to a minimum.
During PCOR 1, for the past 8 weeks, have PUA employees been teleworking?
No.
They
I
have.
said, we only had that 1 week where we were mandatory to close down. I had my main supervisors and my main people still take the laptops and work from home. After 1 week, we were reopened, and every other time since March, PUA was always deemed essential, and we were always working. We've been working 6 days a week nonstop, except for that 1 week. We haven't closed the PUA offices. The staff have been working basically the whole time, answering, fixing claims, and doing things at our call centers.
Okay.
First at GCC, then at the AJC. It was during that first week of the first lockdown that the governor said, even us to close down. So I had my most essential staff, my supervisors and stuff, they were teleworking from there for that week period until we were able to open up the following week. And then everybody basically came back in, and we just readjusted the call centers, and where we were able to get everybody back in there and get it set up with phones and everything.
So I would assume that all of the PUA employees that have been working this 6 days a week would have been or eligible or have been paid overtime?
Yes.
How's your overtime?
With the PUA money.
I'm sorry?
We budgeted, when we put in our budget, we knew that this was going to be a 6 day, 7 day a week. We were 7 days a week initially, all the way through like May or June until we got started opening. We were 7 days a week nonstop trying to get this thing up and running and going. So every month we turn in budget reports to USDOL with the spreadsheet of the monies that we spend for personnel, for hours, for overtime, and for hazardous pay. This is a very transparent with USDOL. It's their funds. They're the ones that authorize it. And it is everything that's used is gotten their approval and their blessing and their funds.
How much was paid out in overtime and hazardous pay?
Oh,
You have an idea?
I can get that to you. I don't know that off the top of my head.
So on top of the overtime and hazardous pay, were the your employees also getting the governor's COVID differential pay?
There's the hazard pay is that.
I see.
I don't know of any other. There's just the hazard pay.
Okay.
Okay, Dave, anything in closing?
No, I think we continue to just try to get the money out there to get everybody paid. And that's always been our number one mission, is to get the money out to as many people as we can. And we continue to try to make sure that the fraud doesn't get, keep it to a limited amount, because we want all that money to stay on Guam. So I appreciate you guys getting the message out and informing the people. And anytime you get some of these people who can't get through or anything, Chris or Sabrina, get their names, and you can always forward them to me, and I'll be glad to make sure that somebody gets a hold of them.
All right.
As I've done with everybody.
Right. Yes, Dave. Appreciate it. Be safe.
I appreciate you guys.
Wash your hands.
Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. 7:20. We'll take a real quick break, and we're back with more of The Link on the Breeze.